Did you know that every year in the United States, more than 795,000 people suffer a stroke, and nearly one-fourth of those occur at night? While the body is resting, what is even more concerning is that many of these strokes are linked to something that seems harmless. It is a familiar exercise that many people over 60 still do every morning. It does not cause pain. It does not make you touch. In fact, it might even make you feel energized. But deep inside, your brain could be silently suffering from reduced blood flow, and you may not even know it. I am not writing this to scare you or to make you stop moving. On the contrary, I want you to understand one simple truth. The body after 60 no longer reacts the same way it did at 30, and that is completely normal. If you adjust your daily routine to fit your current health, you can not only protect your brain, but also add more years of clarity, independence, and strength to your life. If you are over 60, please read this article to the end. It might change the way you move every day. What country are you reading from? Leave a comment below, and do not forget to share this with someone you love. It might be the greatest health gift they receive. When you were 30, you could bend down to pick something up, rise quickly from a chair, or walk under the midday sun without noticing anything unusual. But by the time you reach 60, every movement requires a bit more preparation. This does not mean you are weaker or less capable. It simply means your circulatory and nervous systems have changed naturally with age. Inside your body, there is a mechanism called cerebral blood flow autoregulation. It helps maintain a steady supply of blood to your brain whether you are standing, sitting, or lying down. But according to research from Tufts University, this mechanism begins to weaken after the age of 60. As a result, blood flows to the brain more slowly when your body changes position suddenly. If you stand up too quickly, bend too deeply, or stay in an awkward posture for too long, your brain may temporarily receive less oxygen. You might not feel anything dramatic. Instead of dizziness or fainting, you may only feel a slight unsteadiness or even feel completely normal. But during that moment, small blood vessels in your brain might be stretching too far, or blood may be slowing down and starting to form tiny clots. If one of those clots goes unnoticed, it can travel to the brain and cause a stroke while you are asleep. What matters is not whether an exercise is good or bad. The key is whether it still matches how your body responds today. You can absolutely keep moving and stay active, but you need to listen to the signals from within. A light sense of dizziness, an unusual racing heartbeat, or a strange heaviness in your head are all quiet messages from your brain, telling you it may be time to adjust your workout routine. Exercise 1. Forward bending. For many people, bending down to touch their toes or stretch their back in the morning is a familiar habit to get the body moving. But few realize that after the age of 60, just one deep bend can cause a sudden drop in blood pressure and reduce the flow of blood to the brain. This happens because the pressure sensors in the blood vessels, called baroreceptors, become less sensitive over time. They no longer react quickly enough to adjust blood flow when you change position suddenly. You might feel a little dizzy after bending down, but most of us tend to ignore it and carry on as usual. However, in some cases, that quiet change in pressure creates the perfect condition for blood to thicken, circulation to slow down, and tiny clots to form. If one of these clots travels back up to the brain, it can block a critical blood vessel and trigger a stroke without warning. The case of Mr. Edward, age 74, is a typical example. He continued doing toe-touching exercises every morning after waking up. One day, he felt slightly dizzy but brushed it off. Just a few hours later, he collapsed in his garden. At the hospital, doctors diagnosed him with an ischemic stroke. The cause started with the very exercise he believed was helping him. If you need to bend down, always rise slowly, take a deep breath, and pay attention to how your body reacts. Sometimes, instead of bending forward, it may be much safer to sit down when putting on your socks or reaching for something. Exercise 2. Inverted yoga poses. Yoga is often recommended for older adults because of its gentle and calming nature. However, there is a group of yoga poses that can place dangerous pressure on the brain's blood vessels. These are the inverted poses, where the head is positioned lower than the heart, such as legs up the wall or downward facing bends. After the age of 60, the blood vessels in the brain become weaker, less elastic, and more vulnerable. When blood rushes upward too quickly, the brain's pressure regulating system cannot keep up, which can lead to vessel strain, increased intracranial pressure, and even the risk of brain bleeding. The story of Mrs. Aunt Evelyn, age 74, serves as a thoughtful reminder. She practiced yoga regularly twice a week. One morning, after performing a legs up the wall pose, she felt a headache but continued her session. That evening, she was taken to the hospital with slurred speech and blurred vision. Doctors diagnosed her with a mild brain hemorrhage, most likely caused by a sudden rise in blood pressure during an improper pose. Yoga is very beneficial, but after 60, you should completely avoid any pose where your head is lower than your heart. Instead, focus on seated routines with proper support. These exercises can help your body relax gently without putting pressure on the brain's blood vessels. Exercise 3. Lifting heavy objects while holding your breath. Many older adults prefer to do everything by themselves. Carrying grocery bags, lifting a rice container, or cleaning the house makes them feel independent and strong. But few people realize that lifting something heavy while unconsciously holding your breath can cause a sudden spike in blood pressure and, in some cases, trigger a stroke in seconds. When you try to lift a heavy object without exhaling, your body unintentionally activates a reflex called the Valsalva maneuver. This reflex causes a sudden rise in pressure inside the chest and blood vessels, disrupting the flow of blood to the brain. For those with weakened or hardened arteries, or with plaque buildup, this unexpected pressure can cause a rupture, form a blood clot, and block a blood vessel in the brain. Mr. George, age 82, is a clear example. That day, he tried to lift a box of groceries from his car into the house without asking his son for help. Moments later, he felt dizzy and collapsed to the floor. At the hospital, doctors diagnosed him with an ischemic stroke, likely caused by a sudden spike in pressure while lifting the load. If you need to lift something heavy, always breathe steadily, break the load into smaller parts if possible, and do not hesitate to ask for help. Being independent does not mean doing everything alone. It means knowing how to protect yourself in a smart and safe way. Exercise 4. Standing up too quickly every day. You may stand up from a chair dozens of times without giving it a second thought after a meal, when answering the phone, or simply getting up to grab something. But after the age of 60, even a small action like standing up quickly can cause blood to drop away from the brain, leading to temporary lack of oxygen or even a stroke if the body cannot respond fast enough. In younger people, when standing, the body instantly increases heart rate and tightens blood vessels to push blood back to the brain. But over time, this reflex becomes slower, especially in people with low blood pressure, diabetes, dehydration, or those taking diuretics. As a result, the brain may temporarily lack oxygen, creating conditions for small blood clots to form in the tiny vessels. The story of Mrs. Carroll, age 79, clearly illustrates this risk. She was practicing a stand-up exercise without using her hands, as guided in physical therapy. One morning, after the 5th repetition, she suddenly began speaking slowly, her legs weakened, and she had to be rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis was a stroke caused by blockage in the left middle cerebral artery, likely triggered by standing up too quickly while mildly dehydrated. After the age of 60, always use your hands to push off the chair when standing. Take a deep breath before changing positions. And if you feel even a little dizzy, stop immediately. Speed is no longer a sign of good health. Moving slowly and mindfully is what keeps you safe. Exercise 5. Walking in hot weather. Walking every day is a wonderful habit for older adults. It helps improve blood circulation, stabilize blood pressure, and support memory and emotional well-being. However, if you walk during very hot or humid weather, especially around noon or early afternoon, this healthy routine can actually cause your blood to thicken, setting the stage for a silent stroke to occur during the night. After age 60, the sensation of thirst is no longer as strong as before. Even if you sweat, you may not feel thirsty, leading to mild but prolonged dehydration. When the body is dehydrated, blood volume decreases, making the blood thicker and slower to circulate. This creates a higher chance of blood clots forming in small vessels. If you are also taking diuretics or blood pressure medications, the risk becomes even greater. Mr. Harold, age 84, maintained his routine of walking every summer evening around his neighborhood. But one morning, after a particularly hot day, he woke up feeling confused and unable to move his right hand. Doctors confirmed he had a stroke caused by a blood clot that likely formed due to mild dehydration during his walk. Walking is still very beneficial, but it is safer to walk in the early morning or late afternoon. Always drink water before and after exercising. If you sweat a lot, adding a bit of mineral salt can help. Do not let a healthy habit become the reason your brain is put in danger. Exercise 6. Over-rotating the neck. Many older adults have the habit of rotating their neck in the morning to ease stiffness and relax the neck and shoulders after waking up. But you may not know that the arteries supplying the back of the brain run along the neck, especially the vertebral arteries, which are very delicate. If you turn your neck too far or rotate it repeatedly in circles, these arteries can be easily injured. Strong or deep movements can cause small tears in the inner lining of the blood vessels. The body will then try to heal the tear by forming a blood clot at the site. If that clot travels upward to the brainstem, which controls balance and alertness, the consequences can be serious. Mr. Dennis, age 72, had a routine of slowly turning his neck clockwise every morning after brushing his teeth. One day, during his second rotation, he felt a sharp pain at the back of his neck, followed by dizziness. A few minutes later, he collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis revealed a cerebellar stroke, caused by a small tear in the vertebral artery from rotating the neck too far. If you want to relax your neck, turn it gently within a natural range. Do not perform deep circular rotations or shake your head vigorously. Your neck is not just a support for your head. It is the lifeline that carries blood to your brain. Protect it with care and caution. Exercise 7. High IT, high intensity interval training. High intensity interval training, also known as HIIT, is becoming more popular among older adults thanks to promotions that promise benefits like rejuvenating the heart, burning fat quickly, and keeping the body slim, but inside the aging body. Workouts that demand the heart and blood vessels to adjust rapidly carry serious risks. When you perform quick movements like jumping, raising arms, or jogging in place with a rapidly rising heart rate followed by short rest periods, your blood vessels must constantly expand and contract to keep up. If your vessels are already weak, have plaque buildup, or mild inflammation, this repeated pressure can damage the inner lining of the arteries. It can cause plaque to dislodge and form a blood clot that travels to the brain. Mr. Donald, age 74, from Pittsburgh, followed a senior HIIT workout DVD every morning. After 20 minutes of training, he felt tired but believed it was a sign of progress. One morning, after finishing his session and walking into the kitchen to make coffee, he felt dizzy, dropped his cup, and collapsed. The result was a stroke caused by a blood clot blocking the left middle cerebral artery, likely triggered by a sudden spike in blood vessel pressure during his workout. Instead of choosing high-intensity and stop-and-go routines, it is safer to pick steady exercises like walking, Tai Chi, or light resistance bands. In older age, it is not speed that matters. What truly matters is rhythm and stability. Exercise 8, stretching without warming up. Many people have the habit of doing static stretches right after waking up. They might bend to touch their toes, stretch their arms, or pull on their shoulders, hoping it will make their body more flexible. But what few people realize is that just after waking, your body is still in a sleep mode. Blood circulation is still slow, and your blood vessels are narrower than usual. When you suddenly stretch your muscles, these contracted vessels are forced to expand rapidly, creating a kind of vascular shock. In younger people, the body can respond quickly, but after the age of 60, blood vessels become stiffer and more fragile, especially if you also have high blood pressure or diabetes. The result is uneven blood flow, which increases the risk of blood clots forming in areas with high pressure or turbulent flow. Mrs. Eileen, age 78, used to follow an online stretching routine every morning. One time, after holding a forward bend for 20 seconds, she felt tired and slightly dizzy during her walk afterward. She began to slur her speech and lost her balance. Doctors later diagnosed her with a minor stroke, likely caused by poor blood circulation to the brain after stretching without warming up. Instead of stretching right after getting out of bed, take 5 to 10 minutes to move gently, swing your arms, breathe deeply, and let your body warm up before doing any stretches. This small step can help protect your blood vessels from unexpected damage. Exercise 9. Balancing. Without support. Balance training is often recommended for older adults to prevent falls, improve body control, and build confidence, but if done alone without any support, you may be exposing yourself to a chain of dangerous reactions that few people expect. When you stand on one foot, walk along a narrow line, or balance on a soft mat, even a small slip can cause your body to lose control. And if you fall, even without breaking a bone, your body still treats it as a trauma. Immediately, stress hormones are released, blood vessels tighten, blood pressure rises, and the body begins activating clotting mechanisms as a form of defense. But that very blood clot, if it forms too quickly and is not dissolved properly, can travel to the brain and cause a stroke just hours after the fall. Mr. Walter, age 81, practiced the balance exercise using an online video. He stood on one foot in the middle of the room, with no chair or wall nearby. He slipped slightly on the carpet and fell sideways. It did not seem serious, but by night, he was unable to speak, and his right arm could not move. The diagnosis was a stroke caused by a blood clot after what seemed like a harmless fall. Balance exercises are still very important, but they must always be done next to a wall, a sturdy chair, or with someone nearby for support for the aging body. Safety matters more than challenge. We have just gone through 9 familiar exercises that almost every older adult has done at some point, from bending forward, turning the neck, standing up too quickly, to gentle yoga poses or daily walks in the sun. Each of these activities was once part of a healthy lifestyle, but after the age of 60, the body no longer reacts the way it used to. And that very change means old movements can silently harm the brain if done at the wrong time or in the wrong way. What you need to remember is not to stop moving, but to understand how your body has changed. A small fall can trigger dangerous blood clotting. Holding your breath while lifting something heavy can cause a vessel to rupture. A simple neck rotation can tear a blood vessel if done carelessly, but just a small adjustment walking in the early morning instead of at noon, warming up before stretching, or using support during balance exercises can make a big difference for your brain and for yourself. Growing older does not mean becoming weak, it means becoming wiser. And that wisdom begins with listening to what your body truly needs, not forcing it to do what it used to. Just one small change tomorrow morning, like sitting down to put on your socks instead of bending over, can greatly reduce the risk of blood rushing away from your brain. If you found today's content helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share this video with your loved ones. We will continue bringing you more videos about nutrition, exercise, and natural remedies to help older adults live well every day.